I should be receiving my Bandai Monster Arts Godzilla 1991 very shortly. It's almost 3 o'clock Sunday today, and FedEx says that it will arrive today. Seems really hard to believe since um, it's supposedly in Kansas. So I don't know why they think it's going to arrive by the end of the day, but seems hard to believe. So anyway, I thought I'd talk about the movie on which it's based, which is Godzilla versus King Ghidorah from 1991, and sort of my thoughts on it. My impression is that it's a rather popular Godzilla movie, but I'm not particularly a fan of it, and I'll explain why. And I am not going to avoid spoilers, but I'll go through real quick what the plot is because it's kind of convoluted. They have visitors from the future who come back in time from 200 years into the future uh, under the auspices that they're there to help Japan with their Godzilla problem. So what they plan to do is use the time machine, go back to 1944, um, and take the dinosaur that was the foundation for Godzilla and move him away from where he's at so he won't get irradiated and turn into Godzilla. All right, so I don't even understand why the people from the future would have any interest in even stopping by in Japan. Why not just go back straight to 1944? But not only do they stop there, but they also pick up three Japanese to take back with them. Now, one of the interesting things is that other than one Japanese woman, all of the travelers from the future are Caucasian. And so that is kind of an important plot point. And it turns out that in the future, Japan has become so incredibly powerful, they were able to buy South America and Africa and just dominate the world economy. So some organization that has this plan of equalizing the power of countries around the world decides to go back to 1991 and kind of destroy Japan, or at least really inhibit its growth, so that it won't become so dominant in the future. So this is really, and it's kind of one of the reasons I'm not a big fan of this one, is it's so jingoistic with Japan. And there's other things too. So in 1944 would have been closing in on the end of World War II. And they go to a place called Lagos Island. And Lagos Island is where the dinosaur is. And it's also where there's Japanese troops who are being assaulted by American GIs in a couple of battleships or whatever. And so this dinosaur comes out during the attack, and they even mention that the one of the Japanese commanders even mentions, and he was a commander in 1944, and somehow looks barely any older in 1991. It's the same actor. He says that the dinosaur wasn't protecting the Japanese soldiers. He was just defending his territory. And so even as just a dinosaur, he's knocked down and looks to be dead from shelling and bullets, but he's being hit by a battleship. So this is not Godzilla, it's just a dinosaur. The dinosaur is down on the ground looking dead. And the American soldiers invade the beach, and then the dinosaur gets up and just starts stomping them. So he just leaves a beach of dead American soldiers. I think one of my problems with this film, and again, I don't recall any other Godzilla film being so outwardly pro-Japanese, and it's not that it's bad to be proud of your country, but I don't know that they really wanted to be kind of showing the, I don't know, Japanese soldiers as the heroes here, because I think that World War II was really a dark stain on the history of Japan. And not just saying that as an American, but I know a lot of Asians, Korean, Chinese, other countries that to this day hold a grudge against Japan for what happened in World War II. So it's a bit of a dicey subject, and I think that's why Toho generally shies away from stuff like that, but not here. So the Americans are slaughtered, but the time travelers take the dinosaur away from Lagos Island and put him somewhere else so he won't get irradiated. They also brought these three little cute animals, but when the atomic bomb drops, those three little animals form into King Ghidorah, and I guess he's just sitting around for all those years, and in 1991 starts attacking Japan. So now they've got, rather than Godzilla, they've got King Ghidorah wrecking Japan. And so the Americans, or I'm sorry, the Japanese decide, well, maybe what we need to do is find that dinosaur and irradiate him and recreate Godzilla to take on King Ghidorah. So, but apparently it was unnecessary. They do send a nuclear sub to find this dinosaur, which I think was in the Bering Strait, but it didn't matter. Apparently, the creation of Godzilla was fated to happen. So any radiation, and so apparently, I don't know, a ship had sunk or some kind of nuclear vessel had sunk, and the radiation had turned him into Godzilla already. So they and when the submarine went there, it crashed into Godzilla and irradiated him even more. So now what they had was like a super Godzilla, a Godzilla that was even larger and stronger. So Godzilla goes to Japan and is able to defeat King Ghidorah. And this is, I'm not a big fan of this movie, but this is where it gets pretty good. I will give it credit. Godzilla just starts destroying Japan. In fact, the people from the future, at one point, the leader there is laughing, saying, "It doesn't matter whether who wins, whether you destroy King Ghidorah, whether you destroy us. Whoever is left is going to destroy Japan." And that's exactly what's happening. Now Godzilla is destroying Japan. And there was one part in there where the commander from World War II, who had saluted the dying dinosaur in recognition for saving them all, he's still around and, like I said, looking almost exactly the same. But he's in a building and way up high, and so rather than fleeing, he decides to stay there. And Godzilla walks past, and this is done really well. My description may not be great, but it's done really well. Godzilla stops and he looks in the window, and the commander is staring back at him. And there is a moment of recognition that Godzilla, you can kind of see that Godzilla is remembering back to this commander, and him saluting him and showing him respect. And Godzilla kind of gives a little nod, and which may sound silly, but it was done well, and then just uses his atomic breath to destroy the whole building. So this Godzilla is just a vehicle of destruction at this point. So they finally come up with one more plan, which is to take the dying body of Ghidorah 200 years in the future. So one of the Japanese, by the way, the time travelers were all killed. They were teleported into the path of Godzilla, and Godzilla killed them all, except for the one Japanese woman who did not realize that their intention was to destroy Japan. And she is able to go into the future, back to 200 years into the future, and direct people to rebuild King Ghidorah into Mecha King Ghidorah. And let me tell you, Mecha King Ghidorah is awesome. His introduction, the way he arrives, the battle, it's fantastic. In fact, both battles with King Ghidorah are really, really well done. There's a lot of stuff in here that I think is bad. Special effects, CGI. These fights were really good. And the one difference here that sets it apart from any other Godzilla fight is that Mecha King Ghidorah is actually piloted at this point by the woman. Her name is Emmy. So she's actually in King Ghidorah. So if if Godzilla kills King Ghidorah, Mecha King Ghidorah, he's also killing Emmy, and Emmy was a very sympathetic character, so you don't want her to die. And now at this point, King Ghidorah is basically the hero. Now, King Ghidorah, with Emmy, is able to lift Godzilla up and dump him in the ocean. But Godzilla does kind of blast King Ghidorah. So the two of them just drop into the ocean, and Emmy is able to take a ship and fly away, and everyone is very happy. And so Godzilla doesn't really look even that badly hurt. He's, in fact, as they pan away, or they pan back to Godzilla and King Ghidorah looks done. But Godzilla, his eyes open and his spines start to glow, and so he's clear. And I'm like, well, why doesn't he just walk back to Japan and start destroying it again? But this is kind of the way it is. Once he's pushed that back out in the ocean, he just goes back to doing whatever he wants to do. And he would return in, was it 1992? 1992 in Godzilla versus Mothra, which I think was a better film. This was possibly my least favorite of the Heisei era, except for maybe the Return of Godzilla. But there are definitely things to like about it. I think those fights with King Ghidorah and Mecha King Ghidorah were some of the best ever. I think the suit design, although it is very similar to 1989 Godzilla, I think the suit design is one of the best ever. I think the music in the movie is very good. I just didn't like a lot of the things like this. There was an android in there that was clearly a kind of a ripoff of the Terminator. So it's not. There are parts that are great. It's not a great movie, at least not in my opinion. But a lot of people seem to like it. So anyway, that's Godzilla versus King Ghidorah from 1991.